How's it going, everybody? We have an Ultimate 32 tournament starting today. Yes, I was shocked when I went to talk to Scotty, and he didn't even know that a tournament was starting. He had to rush to go change up his defense. So I want to share that with you guys. So you go set your defense and get ready for some Crucible fun for the next 5 days. So, Ultimate 32. It's only 3 rooms. This is pretty tough, this tournament, because there's not really any interesting rooms. We can go over that real quick. At the end of turn, characters with trauma gain a bleed. Okay. There's no global rules. It's just standard global rules. My X-Men. So Xavier characters count as Uncanny, Immortal, Extreme, Astonishing, and Unlimited. As fun as Professor X is, he doesn't really mesh well or need these characters. He kind of really needs an Emma Frost X-Men to stop speed stat gains. He now really needs a Nightcrawler, who I guess is a Extreme member, to stop old Emma. And then he stops speed bar. So he doesn't really mesh well with these characters, at least not in this context, not in Crucible, against the various enemies. So this, again, is kind of nothing room, and again, no global rules. And then for Legends, legendary characters gain 20% base stats on turn end. They gain assists now, and on turn spread positive effects to adjacent allies. Which, I mean, the positive effects to adjacent allies is pretty cool. The on turn end assist now and the base 20 stats, we're going to have a way to circumvent that. It's going to be pretty interesting. So, let's go ahead. Let's get down to business. Starting with stage 1, Fester. So on offense defense, all characters end of turn characters with trauma gain bleed. I'm throwing my Phoenix Force team in here. I don't think this team is going to hold at all, but we can't gain trauma, so we're kind of immune to the room rolls. This is a highly beatable team now by players that are going to have their Immortal X-Men with Rachel Summers at a similar build to your Phoenix Force Annihilators team. I did have somebody lose with that team in my second trial, but that's because they subbed out Cable and they kept Beast in for their Rachel. That's not what you need to do. If you bring in Cable, this is going to be a very easy win, even with Rachel at low stars. Another team that can beat this is like a Kahori Blastar team, but with Blaster at low stars, it's kind of a bait. So I'm leaving Speedbar on the table here to bait in a Blaster and see if we can get a dub that way. I have seen that happen to people in other YouTube videos. I don't think this room is going to hold. But it's always a room Phoenix Force where people can make a little oopsies, or they can run into some issues where they lose efficiency. And somebody just asked, Gore over Sus? Yes, absolutely. Gore over Sus, because that stops vulnerables from happening if they do use Immortals. And Jean Grey cannot get that extra Striker attack out, which can do a lot of damage and get your Omega Red killed a little bit easier. So that's for our Fest room. Now, my X-Men. I am going to be putting Professor X in here. I'm going to be putting him with Nightcrawler and Emma Frost X-Men for the reasons we just talked about. I need Nightcrawler so that there's no OG Emma issues here. I need Emma Frost X-Men because I don't want Speed Stat to be on the table here because, again, that would just be fantastic for Emma running the gambit on me. Okay, so we don't want that. And, of course, Professor X stops the speed bar gains. I have Null because I don't want this to be a Mephisto comes away with it and just walks over things because, of course, Emma does not stop the speed stat gain of Mephisto. So we needed to do this as well. And then I have Black Knight here because you do want a pre-taunted there. I have him at Gear Tier 20. Normally, I would put Black Knight elsewhere to get more value out of him as a character. But because there's only 3 rooms, we're going to keep him here. If you don't have a Gear Tier 20 Black Knight, I would suggest putting a Gear Tier 20 character in here. Just make sure they're not a Cosmic pre-taunter, because then, of course, the Landry can come in and stop that, and then your Professor X, he's just going to immediately burst into flames against a Mephisto. Maybe like a Mephisto Guardian can then come in here and kill your Professor X before he gets a turn, so that would be an issue. This is the major team for defense, right? Now, if you don't have Professor X, listen, this happens every time we make this video. You can't make a team that replaces Professor X. You don't have a defense at that point. All right, I didn't really like the way I just left that there with you don't have Professor X, you don't have a defense. It's true. I think if you don't have Professor X on defense at all, I don't think there is any combination of 3 teams you're going to make that are going to cause your opponent to really struggle. This is, of course, with the assumption that you have a lot of the other tools not needing Professor X. Do you have Rachel? Do you have Azazel? Do you make sure you have Odin, Mephisto? Like, so I can't cater the defense around every single person's respective roster, because then we're no longer talking about the best defensive teams at that point, and the video would lose a lot of its value. But here is what I would say is a decent substitute for people that don't have Professor X and fight against other people who don't have Professor X and maybe don't have all the other new tools, right? So we leave stage 1 the way it is. Stage 2, I'm actually going to be grabbing Black Knight, Null, Captain Britain instead of Nightcrawler, because Captain Britain will stop old Emma passive. We have new Emma to stop speed stats, so that's kind of blocking off Starjammers in this case, right? And then we have Mephisto here. And this is a pretty decent team. This team will get run over by let's see, a Curse will beat this. There's going to be a lot of teams that'll beat this, honestly. Fantastic Four, a speed team around Fantastic Four will beat this. There's definitely going to be a couple things that could beat it, but they'll require some specific tools, so this is a very, very reasonable defense to put up. And then for stage 3, I would put a Cursed up with Azazel. If you don't have Azazel unlocked and you put Mordo in here, it's very beatable again by some speed stat teams, but they kind of really like the Fantastic Four and those speed stat teams as well. So our stage 2 and stage 3 are kind of restricting them. This would be maybe your lighter defense if you have Professor X on offense, or if you don't have Professor X unlocked at all. I think this is a pretty reasonable solution. Let's get back to the main video though, but I hope this does help you folks who don't have Professor X unlocked. If you do have Professor X, this is the team that you need to try and drain your opponent's roster with your other teams so they can't put all their tools here, because this can be one shot. And of course, if your opponent uses their Professor X on offense, it's going to be a lot easier for you on the other side because we have so much offense. I do think he's got to be on defense, but I'm excited to get proven wrong and get beat up in my first trial. So, I do have this team here, and that means that the next team has to be good enough to stop them coming in here with, let's say, Fantastic Four. Let's see, another character that'd be faster than 127, like an Odin would be really powerful here, right? And maybe like a Guardian for the offense up, or maybe even an Apocalypse, because Apocalypse would stop the Nightcrawler from landing the stun. He would give all the other characters the extra damage, and that could be something that's scary there too, right? So you got to kind of tax that team the most, in particular those Fantastic Four members. And that's what I'm trying to do in the Legends room. So in the Legends room, I will be putting a Curse with Mephisto. A couple people in chat were freaking out the second they saw this. So like, if you don't use a Curse on offense, you're not going to complete your command center, and the world's going to explode, and you're going to kill all the babies. And I'm like, whoa. You need to use them one day, okay? You have to use them for one day for the command center event, and it has to be on offense. This is obviously a not very popular thing with the community, and I think that with us really, really having to protect our Professor X, this is probably the worst thing, because without a Cursed, there's no way to like force the Fantastic Four use, which I do think is a problem. So play Cosmic Crucible with a Curse. This has to be on offense. 5 characters, so you got to use them one time. So one time in this tournament, I will definitely be pulling a Curse off of defense and putting them into, off defense and putting them into offense. And I do not know what I will replace that team with then, because there's no other option that'll help tax this. Odin, Illuminati, Black Knight, that just gets beat by a Starjammers. If I put Starjammers here, well, that just gets beat by a Starjammers. There's no other team that pulls these specific characters that's needed for this to protect this. Unfortunately. That's my opinion anyway. Let me know in the comments if I'm completely off base. But what we have here is we do have the Curse in the Legends room. A couple of things that chat just pointed out to me that is really cool about a Curse in this room, and I initially did not have this set up, is that the base stats are turned off against the Curse. So this is part of Hood's kit, where in Crucible, enemies can only gain bonus damage and focus through positive effects. So this will actually stop the legendary characters from getting that 20% base stats, which is something I was worried about, because I was worried that a Quasar Shadow King combo with Quasar doing buttloads of damage and Shadow King getting those pings with that extra, I was worried that would just wreck the Curse situation here, but it seems like it's going to be okay. Now guys, if you happen to see this team on defense and you want to know how I'm going to beat it, I will be using my Fantastic Four on the Accursed. This is a highly beatable team. In fact, if I see, even with Azazel, I think I'm going to be forced to use Fantastic Four on there. Actually, no, I'll have a different answer if it's Azazel. Mephisto makes it so you have to bring Fantastic Four, otherwise he'll get his speed stat, right? So if you see Mephisto with the Accursed characters, it should be these characters, because even though Azazel's cool, these characters do so many very important passive things. I will be using the 3-piece Fantastic Four, because they'll stop the speed stat, and they all go before the members that we see here. I also will be forced to bring in Captain Britain. You see, I do not have Illuminati on defense here. Captain Britain will stop the speed bar gains Mephisto and Juggernaut get through Juggernaut's passive. And then I will be bringing in Quasar. Because Quasar is going to do crazy damage now. And if Quasar loses the coin flip to Invisible Woman, then he is going to hit all enemies. He is absolutely going to crush. And I think we're going to be okay with that. So just I wanted to give what I would do to that Mephisto Curse team, because I've seen a lot of people be complaining about seeing that on defense. And then for stage 2, I'll probably have to do a burn attack into some sort of Odin team at that point. Alright guys, so while recording this, I did get put onto a text change that is happening for stage 3, which does make it make a lot more sense. Currently in game, it is reading, on turn N, legendary characters gain assist now. I took this to mean like when Quasar takes a turn, the next character takes a turn, he's going to do an assist. But that didn't matter because I'm shutting that down with the accursed team anyway. So Hood does stop enemies from assisting. So that's not going to be an option for me whatsoever. When we take accursed off, it will matter though. So the proper text and the proper functionality is going to be legendary characters on ally turn gain assist now. This is obviously a lot more powerful. If you leave assists on the table here and you say there is a Quasar, well, he's going to do assists on every ally turn, and that's going to be devastating damage. Same would be true for Shadow King. Same would be true for Blastar. So Blastar will do his retaliate, plus he'll gain an assist, so he will gain 2 bomb burst stacks every single time he does, every single time an ally does a basic attack and assist on the table. So you want to make sure you shut that down, whether it be with a curse or I guess maybe Starjammers or throwing an Echo in there, whatever the case may be. We'll talk about, you know, potential accursed substitutes in a later video. All right, back to the show. I think that the U32 is going to be reasonably fun. I do hear the community when they are worried about it sapping your trophies, and like I'm right there with you. Me having to face off, you see I'm at nearly 2100. I was the 20th position in the leaderboards before U32. Having to face off against 5 killers back to back to back, my lobby is stacked. I got an underpowered Saw in here. Scotty is actually part of mine. We got the Bloody 9. Oh god, lots of great players. 2Apocalypse, Guilty was crazy, J-Ro. Like very, very crazy enemies. I think Cray absolutely ruined me. We have Johnny, who is the #1 ranked Crucible player at the end of last season. I'm probably losing at least 4 out of these 5. It's definitely going to throw me down the leaderboards before the next season. I hear the complaint there. Unpopular opinion, I just don't care enough. I just don't care enough. I feel like no matter what happens on U32, I will always end up in the same spot by the end of the following season. At least in the position that I'm in, I can never break that sort of top 10 anyway, because since they stopped trophy decay, certain players, Johnny included, they are just creating this insane buffer of trophies, and they will be holding on to those top positions pretty much from here on into the future. Which is, whatever, it's fine. The difference in rewards is not crazy enough for me to worry about that. Plus, I'd probably never beat Johnny anyway, if I'm being real. Anyway, that's it for U32. I hope this video helps you guys. Make sure you go set that defense. We'll, of course, have our gameplay videos going up. And if you want to lambast me for that opinion that I don't care about the trophies getting taken away, go for it. I just don't care enough. The last thing I want to bring to you guys is that people are concerned this weekly portion of the Null Finale event won't be completable because U32 only has 3 rooms, and obviously it's only starting on day 3, so it would only be 9 attacks total possible, right, instead of 12. They've already told us in the Envoy Discord that they've already tinkered with the math and that this portion of the Command Center event should not be an issue. So once again, those are my defense teams. I will be pulling a curse off of defense, use them on offense for at least 1 match here. If for some reason I know I'm about to match with Johnny, I'm pulling a curse to offense. Let me just say that real quick. So that's it for the Ultimate 32 Crucible talk. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about is a new sponsorship we're doing. You can see it in the top left corner there. We just started a sponsorship with HelloFresh. Here's what we're going to do, because our last sponsorship was with Matchmasters, and people who participated got put into a raffle, and we ended up giving 1,000 American dollars away, which I thought was great. We had 10 winners. I've already gotten 6 people that are winning, still waiting to hear from the other 3, but we raised a lot of cool money, which was great, and it got me thinking, and then I got an email from a charity that we've worked with in the past, Gamers Outreach, which essentially they create these video game portable stations, and they're in children's hospitals for children who have to stay a little bit longer in a hospital. They have to stay for multiple nights, sort of deal. And they get to play with these games. And we're all gamers, right? A lot of us have kids. Of course, I'm dorky dad. So I think this is one of the coolest charities ever, and I love working with them. So for this sponsorship, what we're going to do is, again, for all the non-taxable earnings, we're going to donate that directly to the Gamers Outreach charity. We're also going to be doing a dedicated stream for them in October, part of their Spooktoberfest, which I think is really cool. And this is going to be great, because I actually really like HelloFresh. I think their food is fantastic. It's step-by-step instructions, so I suck at cooking, but it means I can actually cook a really good meal for my wife, which is awesome. And because the instructions are step-by-step and all the materials come just to your door, this is actually a fun activity I can do with my kids, and I plan on doing that. So with chat right now, the live chat, we're going to go pick a meal for HelloFresh, and I'm going to record me and my sons making this meal, and it should be some pretty fun content for you guys. So if you want to take part in this sponsorship and get some great food and also give to a really good charity, I'll leave a link to that in the description and in the comments below. And of course, if you just go visit my Twitch panel or Twitch page, you can see the panel for that. I think they're great, and I think that we're going to be doing it for a great cause, so it's win, 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 win. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. But for now, let's see you guys next video. Bye-bye.